Hello guys, welcome to a new video here in JS Education. My name is Carlos Santana and this is the video number 43 for the course developing a headless CMS with TypeScript and GraphQL. So let's start. Okay, so before we start with this video, I recommend you that you update or you pull the latest changes from master in the repository because after the last video, I made a small refactor where I renamed the content. As you remember, the content was made for the translations, but I decided that probably that will cause some confusion. So I changed that name of the content for internationalization, which is basically written as I18N. So that's it. So that's why you need to do git pull first, and after that we are going to update our packages as we always do with ncu-u. And just remember that you need to copy the version you are seeing on my terminal to avoid any problem. Okay, after you install those, you need to go to backend, source data, index. Basically here on line 20, we are going to change the content for I18N, which is basically internationalization. It's gonna be your new model and everything is gonna be renamed with that name. So we need to change that, and also here on the bool create, doesn't matter if we get an error right now, we are going to fix that problem later. Okay, and after that, we need to go to GraphQL resolvers, and you need to create the file i18n.ts, and this is gonna be the code for that. So basically, it's going to perform a find all with the get internationalization query, and it's going to return an array of the translations. Now on types, we need to create the file i18n.graphql, and basically this is gonna be your type. We are going to have an ID, a key, value, language created at and updated at, and the query is going to have the get internationalization, and it's going to return an array of this type. And we also have a create input with key, value, and language. After this, you need to go to interfaces and then types, and also rename this content here with internationalization. Also, you need to go to index of the interfaces, and basically you are going to do the same. All the content interfaces needs to be renamed. Yeah, just like that. And also below you need to change the model as well. So that's it. And then you need to go to models, and we are going to rename the content file for internationalization.ts, and basically just change this again, like this, and then content here, here, and here. Okay, after this we just need to go to the index, and basically we need to rename the content and import with the internationalization one. And okay, so that's it for the backend. Now let's go to front end, and then open the git ignore inside the front end, and we are going to ignore now this folder instead of content, just like that. And after this, let's go to source, app, dashboard, components, content, and you are going to open content styled, and basically here you need to add a margin top 20 pixels, and this is because we are going to add on the table component from fogg-ui a new search that will take some space. So basically this margin top is just to make a little separation between them. Okay, and now let's go to system fields, index, and in here the only change I made is modifying this width. I increased 10 pixels on this model because with different translations, the buttons are like breaking in two lines. So this is going to be enough space to be just in one line. Okay, so now inside the content folder, you need to create a new file called i18nfields.ts. And basically those fields are gonna be special for the internationalization model. Okay, so the difference, for example, with the asset model that we had in the site is that the asset model is created for each application we have. But the problem is that the internationalization model needs to be global. So basically that means needs to be accessible for all the applications. So that's why we are going to handle this as a special model. So we need to create on the fly the fields. So those fields that I'm registering here, like the ID, this ID doesn't really matter. Like I just put random keys there. But I mean, the important thing is like the field name. In this case is the ID, the key, the value, and the language. So that's the fields that I'm going to display on the table for the internationalization one. Okay, so after you create this file, now let's open the index file on the content. And basically you need to import the data that we just create. Oops. That should be like this. And then on line 44, we need to get the data like this, get internationalization. And you need to add a validation in here that if we don't get internationalization or the model and the declarations, basically we just skip that render. And now, because we are going to render the fields based on if it's a model or an internationalization, we need to ask if we get model, if we have the data for get model, the fields are coming from get model.fields. Otherwise, it's going to come from internationalization fields, and the values are going to come from get internationalization. And then in the method get values for table, basically we need to change that a little bit. So before we were passing the fields directly from the get model, but now we need to pass an object with fields and values separately. And then also we are going to pass the rows per page. I think I forgot to add those variables. So basically here, after the page, we need to add this rows per page. If we have some data on internationalization, basically we are going to display 50 rows per page. Otherwise, we are going to display only 10 like we do by default. In here we have our fields, which is an empty array. And also we have our values, which basically are gonna be null by default and fill it depending if it's a get model or internationalization fields. After that, basically now we can graph a row value from get values for table the difference between rows and row is that this one is breaked into chunks. So for example, if we have like 40 entries and we are saying that we want to display 10 by 10 or 10 by page, basically we are getting a multi-array of 4 positions, and each position is going to contain 10 entries, right? So the row is basically the 40 entries just in a plain array, like the entire data. And basically you just pass the rows per page here. And that's it, because we need to add that to make the search works on the table. So now we are going to remove the count here, and we are going to replace that with the row. And also you need to pass to the pagination the rows per page. After this, you need to go to constant links. And I created this constant internationalization link, but basically it was a copy from the last one. So we just need to fix this by changing I18N. And the logout link needs to have a validation. So basically, if U has something, we use the language, otherwise we just return empty. And after this, on GraphQL, let's create the folder I18N. I think I already created. Okay, so you need to create this folder on your GraphQL directory, and then inside you need to create the file get i18n.query.ts, and this is gonna be your query that we are going to run. Basically, we are going to grab the ID, the key, the value, and the language. And now let's go to pages, language, dashboard, app ID, module name, model. And in here, okay, so the first thing we need to do is to import the query get i18 query. And as you know, on this page, we are running multiple queries, but we don't know to run all the queries at the same time. So we just want to run based on the URL and based on the section we are on it. So that's why we need to skip some of the functions or some of the queries. If, for example, we don't want to execute get model query if the section is different than model, or the model is equals to internationalization. Also, the declarations before was running all the time, now is going to skip if the model is internationalization. And then we need to do the same for get values by entries. We are going to skip if we don't have an entry ID or the model is internationalization. And get declarations. Also, these enumerations are going to be skipped like that. After this, you need to, I'm going to create the query, the new query for us here, but also we need to skip this one, get entries, like that. If it's internationalization, we don't want to run this query. And this query get internationalization query data, we want to run it, or we want to skip it if the model is different from internationalization. So that's the only case where we are going to remove that part. And now in here, we need to add some validations as well, because if we don't add that validation, basically we are going to get stuck in some of these empty divs, because we didn't run the others or the previous queries, right? So in here we need to say if the model is different than internationalization, then do this validation. Also on this part, and also here on the numerations. And if everything is okay, basically we are just going to pass our data like this. So that's it on this file. Now let's go to server TS, and I detect a little issue on the logout link. Basically, I found that maybe makes more sense to just, or yeah, makes more sense to go directly to /logout instead of the language. So we are going to support also that route, like /logout, and it's going to clean up and do the same process. And finally, let's go to share components, layout mains sidebar. And then in here, we are going to import our internationalization link constant. And we need to do some validations on the router language, because sometimes the router is not there. So this is gonna break our site. So we need to validate that. And also, before the assets, we are going to insert a new link for the internationalization. And also we need to validate the language more, like in this line and like here as well. So that's it. I think that's it. Let me take a look. Yeah, that's it. So let's run the application to see if everything works fine. And I'm going to show you the new things on the side. Okay, so now we are on the dashboard. We can go now for content. And I created some like example entries here. As you see now, we have a search box on the table. We say here like 4 entries found. And for example, here you can find something by writing, like for example, PHP. And it's going to filter post to PHP and post 3 Node.js. So probably you are wondering like why this post is displaying if it doesn't contain PHP. But if you go to the content, you will see that it says Node and PHP. So that means that the search is look on all the fields. So if you want to be like more specific, you can do like post 1, for example, and then it's going to open React. And then here you can go to edit that entry, etc. Also, another cool feature that I added to the fogg-ui is that you can now sort the columns ascending and descending. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And now if you see this new icon, the world icon, basically is the internationalization. In here we have all the entries and are like being displayed like by 50 by 50 because they are like a lot. And here we have our pagination. Right now it doesn't work the edition, but eventually we are going to fix that. But also you can fix, or you can search like this, like file name, etc. And also in the next video we will be able to create new entry or new translation here. So the goal is to create some translation on the fly and then make it accessible directly just when we save that or when we edit an entry. So that's it for this video. I don't want to make it any longer. I hope you like it. Remember that if you have any question, feel free to join our Slack community. The link is on the description. Also, if you like those videos and you want to help me, please share this video with your friends and also subscribe to this new channel. We are almost 100 subscribers, so thank you for that support. So that's it. Thank you for your time and see you in the next video. Bye.